Our second speaker is Orna Mizrahi, the immediate past Deputy National Security Advisor for Foreign Policy at the National Security Council, where she served from 2015 to 2018. Orna served at the INSC for 12 years in diverse positions. In her last duty, she was leading the strategic planning on regional and international policy on behalf of the INSC for the Prime Minister and the Israeli cabinet. Orna joined the INSC after a long military career in the IDF. She's a lieutenant colonel, retired, and served in the IDF for 26 years, and served, among other things, as an analyst in the Intelligence Analysis Division of the Military Intelligence, senior officer in the Strategic Planning Division of the IDF. She worked in education in the IDF, MA in Middle Eastern Studies from Tel Aviv University, BA in Middle Eastern History from Tel Aviv University, and an additional BA in General History and the Bible, again from Tel Aviv. Orna will speak on the rise of the Iranian threat. Orna, please.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for inviting me to speak. Do you see me? I think I need a little stage. So I was asked to talk about the Iranian threat, and I could speak about the Iranian threat for hours, all the day, alone. But I'll try to do it brief, and I'll try to be focused and precise in what I'm saying by using my papers also, because as you know, my English is not my mother tongue. So I'll start by three important statements that I think that these three statements are the essence of what I want, the message that I want to bring to this room. And I'll start by saying that the Iranian threat is not just a threat to Israel. The Iranian threat is a threat to all the region, including the Eastern Mediterranean states, and beyond it, and beyond the region. This is the one. The second one is that the nuclear weapon program is not the only challenge from Iran that the international arena or community is facing. The Iranian threat is more complicated, and it has more dimensions that the international community has to look at and to try to find ways to challenge it. The third statement that I think emerged from these two statements is that all the countries in the region, including the Eastern Mediterranean democratic states, has to take part of the struggle against Iran and not leave it just to Israel. And I think by that I'm challenging what I've just heard that Major General Golan has said, that Israel can challenge the Iranian threat by itself. I think it's true. Of course, it's true that we can do it by ourselves, but I think that Israel needs to have more support in the international arena and in the close area in the struggle against Iran. And I'm not just talking about the military combat, I'm talking about the political arena and the thing that can be done, for example, as what was happening with the nuclear program. So I would like to say a few words about the motivations of the Iranian regime. We are talking about a Muslim republic which is driven by extreme religious ideology and is a threat, as I've said, to the whole region, and its policy and actions also affects the global security. We should take into account the fundamental fact in relation to this regime, which aims to spread the Shiite theocracy in the region and the whole world, and aspires to become a regional power at the expense of other countries, and first and foremost, Israel. With regard to the Eastern Mediterranean democratic states, and especially, of course, the triangle, the new triangle that the three states that have recently expanded their cooperation, Israel, Greece, and Cyprus, I think they all share the same interests and values. And I'm talking about the interest on the strategic level. And I think there are three that I have to mention: peace, security, and stability in the region that will ensure cooperation and economic prosperity. And Iran poses a threat to these common interests. Therefore, the Iranian threat is a major challenge for all these countries and not just for Israel, as I've said. So what are the main components of the Iranian policy and actions that undermine the regional stability? Of course, I will present my own view, but I think that it reflects to a great extent the Israeli system's formal view about that. And we are actually talking about 5 dimensions of threat. The first one will be, of course, the Iranian nuclear program. I think today there is no doubt that Iran is seeking to have nuclear weapons, and I think there is no need to elaborate on the dangers posed by the existence of nuclear weapons in the hands of an extremist Islamic regime to the region. So the first one is, of course, the nuclear weapons. The second one will be the Iran's military buildup with conventional weapons, with an emphasis on the long-range ballistic missiles program. Iran attaches a great importance to its the buildup of these missiles, which would pose a significantly greater risk if and when they could carry nuclear warheads. The second dimension will be the Iranian expansion in the Middle East. And Jonathan was speaking a little bit about this. Iran is aiming and actually succeeding to create a Shiite axis in the Middle East. And the regional developments of the recent decades, in particular the Iraq war and the turmoil in the Arab world, have enabled Iran to advance its presence in the Eastern Mediterranean region. I think also that we have to look at the modus operandi of this regime. Iran is taking advantage of internal conflicts to undermine the internal resilience of its opponents. The turmoil in the Arab world provided Iran with an excellent opportunity to do so by supporting terror groups and like-minded elements who are fighting against moderate Sunni states and Israel. As part of this, we should see the support of Iran to the Houthis in Yemen against Saudi Arab. These activities certainly undermine, in other places also, these activities certainly undermine regional stability. The fourth dimension, and I put it, as you see, not as the first one, is Iran's massive efforts against Israel, under the false claim that Israel has no right to exist. Iran uses any way possible to weaken and deter Israel by supporting over the years the 2 proxies, the terror groups in Gaza Strip, and I'm talking, of course, about Hamas and the Islamic Jihad from the south, and the proxy in Lebanon, Hezbollah. In Lebanon, Hezbollah is Iran's main proxy and managed to become, with the support of Iran, into powerful military force. Its military capabilities includes about 20,000 well-trained fighters and more than 150,000 rockets and missiles at all ranges, short, medium, and long ranges. These missiles are directed against Israel, and recently we have witnessed the enormous Iranian effort to make these missiles accurate. And this is a very dangerous development for Israel, which is trying to prevent it. We can add to this, of course, the Iranian assistance in digging the attacking tunnels from Lebanon into sovereign territory of Israel, which were recently, just last week, were exposed, and the IDF is still working on that. And of course, the Iranian presence in Syria. Jonathan have mentioned that, and so I just will say it shortly, that Iran knew well how to exploit the war in Syria and advance its interest. Iran expanded its presence in Syria and the involvement of not just of Iranian, but also of Shiite elements from the region in the war. Iran's intention is to maintain a long-term military presence in Syria, including the establishment of military bases. The presence of Iran, and especially of its military components, is intolerable for Israel, and this is enough to say that it creates a threat to the region, and of course to Israel, because it creates a threat from two fronts in the north. And if in the past we were concerned about a large-scale war against Lebanon, between Israel and Lebanon, now the concern is a broad and integrated war of two fronts, which requires a joint effort to prevent it, and I think not only by Israel. The five and last dimension that I would like to mention is the hostile activity, of course, of Iran in the international arena. In this context, there are two things to mention. First, of course, is Iran's involvement in terrorism. And we have to view both the direct Iranian activity in the international arena and the support of Iran to others terrorist elements. The other one is what Iran is doing at the cyberspace. There is awareness to Iranian wide-range activities in attacks in cyberspace. These attacks are aimed primarily against United States and Israel, but it could be aimed to others also. So I will conclude by saying that Iran poses a serious threat to the stability of the Middle East and the Eastern Mediterranean area, and this perception is shared by many countries in the region, even if they are very careful not to give it public expression. And I'm talking about, especially about the pragmatic Sunni states, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states, and others, as well as the countries in the Eastern Mediterranean. And finally, I would like to conclude with a practical recommendation. I think that in view of the great risk amounting from the extremist Islamic regime in Iran, cooperation is required on the part of all parties interested in the stability of the region. Israel, the pragmatic Arab states, and the neighboring countries in the Eastern Mediterranean. Therefore, a joint effort should be made by them to build a joint work plan to neutralize the Iranian threat to the region in order to maintain its stability and ensure the future prosperity of our region. Thank you.
Thank you, Orna. Our third speaker at this session is former Ambassador